Assalamu alaikum, students. A very good morning to you all. Hope you all are fine. And in the previous class, we have done with our chapter number 3, and we have gone through the last topic that are basic definitions in the or the properties of any element. So now we are going to start a new chapter, that is chapter number 4, chemical bonding. And in the today's lecture, we are covering the topic that why do chemical bonds formed? Yes, the question arises that why any element or why any compound forms a chemical bond? What are the necessities? What are the requirements? And then we will inshallah, deal with the chemical bonds, that how many chemical bonds are there and what are the difference between these bonds. And the first bond that we are going to discuss in this class is ionic bonding. So inshallah, we'll cover all these topics in our lecture. So the first topic that is why do atoms form chemical bond? Yes, take an example from our daily life. The essential answer is that everyone in the world desires to be stable in their life. Yes, you know that every person living in this universe is struggling to be stable in their life. Okay. Likewise, the atoms are also just like that. They are also trying to become more stable. So atom try to share required number of electrons, and how they are becoming stable by sharing and gaining of electrons with each other to obtain the electronic configuration of noble gas. In chapter number 3, I have told you the noble gas is stable gases. These are the stable elements. Why? Because noble gases have their octet complete. They have 8 electrons in their valence shell. There is no need for further gaining and losing of electrons. They are a stable molecule. They are stable elements. So like that, all the atoms are trying to complete its octet or duplet to be stable. So therefore, they required chemical bonds to be formed to become a stable. So now you get the answer that why do atoms form chemical bonds? Because the atoms wants to stable in their life. You can say that the atoms are want to become a stable molecule or atom, and by sharing or gaining or losing the electrons, they can make a chemical bond in between them to become themselves stable. So now, what are noble gases and what are the configuration of noble gases? You can easily see here that electronic configuration of noble gas varies from Ns2 to Np6. It means that 2 plus 6, 8 electrons. They have 8 electrons in their outermost shell and rarely form chemical bonds. The noble gases, what are noble gases? Helium, neon, argon, krypton, as we have gone through in the chapter number 3. So these elements are sometimes called inert gases. And what is the main reason to call them inert gases? Because they do not participate in chemical reaction. I have foretold you in the chapter number 3 while we are discussing the noble gases that these gases are also known as inert gases because they do not participate in chemical reaction. They don't have any need to further gain or lose the electrons. Therefore, they are not forming the chemical bonds easily. They're not taking part in the chemical reactions, and therefore they are termed as inert gases. Now moving towards the next slide. What are valence electrons? You have to remember, or you must remember, that all the bonds, either it's covalent bond, either it's coordinate covalent bond or ionic bond, all the bonds can be formed only through the valence electrons. And what are valence electrons? The electrons present in the outermost shell of any atom play an important role in determining the chemical properties of the atom, including its ability to form chemical bonds. Yes. So वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स कौन से इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं? किसी भी एटम के जो लास्ट शेल होता है, आउटरमोस्ट शेल में जो भी इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं, these are known as valence electrons. And these valence electrons determine the chemical properties or the formation of chemical bonds or nature of chemical bond formed by them. These electrons in the outermost shell of an atom are called valence electrons or outer electrons. Finding the valence electron on the electronic configuration, example boron, it has electronic configuration number 5. Yes, finding the valence electrons, we have to do electronic configuration. And I have just taught you that how to represent electronic configuration of any single atom. And I hope so you have understood very properly and you can easily do an electronic configuration of any element given to you in your exams. Now moving towards the next. Yes, now chemical bonding. What is chemical bonding? Chemical bonding is the combining of atoms to form new substances. Yes, you know that when two different elements combine together, they form a new compound. So chemical bond is the combining of an atom to form a new substance. An interaction that holds two atoms together is called a chemical bond. And that interaction and that force or that property that holds the two different atoms together is known as chemical bond. Atoms can lose, gain, or share valence electrons to form covalent bond. Here you can see that there is formation of chemical bond, and here two molecules or two atoms combine with a large atom to form a new molecule. Now, how many types of chemical bond are there? There are three types of bond depending upon the tendency of an atom to gain or lose electrons. We have number one, ionic bonding, number two, covalent, and number three, coordinate covalent. That is also known as dative covalent bond. Now, the first is ionic bonding. What is ionic bonding? In the formation of ionic bond, an atom loses electron and changes into positive ion, that is known as cation, whereas another atom gains electrons and changes into negative ion. Yes class, आयनिक बॉन्डिंग में क्या होता है, एक एटम अपना एक इलेक्ट्रॉन लूज करता है और उसके ऊपर प्लस चार्ज आ जाता है, यानी कि वो कैटायन बन जाता है, और दूसरा एटम उस जो लूज किए हुए इलेक्ट्रॉन को गेन कर लेता है, अपने शेल में डाल लेता है और वो खुद नेगेटिव आयन का बन जाता है, यानी कि एनायन बन जाता है. Here, these cations and anions have opposite charges. Now you know that plus charge and minus charge attract each other. And these two elements or ionic elements attract each other by the electrostatic force of attraction. Remember that. The electrostatic force of attraction that hold oppositely charged ions together is called as ionic bond. And that is a force known as electrostatic force that holds the positive and negative charge together is known as ionic bond or electrovalent bond. Generally, ionic bond is formed between the atoms of two different groups, like metal and non-metal. Okay, and compounds that contain ionic bonds are called as ionic compounds, such as sodium chloride (NaCl), potassium chloride, magnesium fluoride. These all are the examples of ionic bonding. So let's discuss an example of formation of ionic bonding. The formation of sodium chloride, that is table salt. You know that sodium is a metal of group 1A and only one electron in the outermost shell. The electronic arrangement of sodium is the first shell contain 2 electrons, second 8, and third one electron. So you know that to complete its octet, sodium needs 7 further electrons. So 7 electrons gaining is too much distracting. So 1 electron losing is easy. Okay, so now here you can see that where the electrons by losing 1 electron, the sodium forms cation. It gains plus charge. Okay, so now class you can easily observe that sodium have Na plus charge, and now the other thing is the chlorine atom has 7 electrons in its valence shell, and then chlorine atoms need 1 electron to be stable. So then the 1 electron lost by the sodium gave to the chlorine atom, and these two atoms by sharing their electrons to each other forms a bond known as ionic bond. Here you can see that the first element is the sodium element and the second is chlorine. So class, you can see here that we have sodium atom here, and this is chlorine atom. This sodium share 1 electron to its chlorine atom and forms a bond, and then formation of sodium chloride occurs. It means that Na positive when combined with Cl minus, it forms NaCl. Okay class. So that's all about today's lecture, inshallah. If you have any queries, so I will discuss you in the class. Allah Hafiz.